Most people assume building a billion-view digital media asset requires either rare creative genius or blatant plagiarism. But it requires neither. You simply an exercise in leverage extraction and, pattern recognition.
Yeah, that is the fundamental reality of modern digital platforms. I mean, if you examine the actual mechanics driving the largest media portfolios today, you aren't looking at creative endeavors anymore. You're looking at cold mathematical systems designed to capture and monetize attention at scale.
Exactly. And in this video, we take a look and are examining a breakdown provided by operator Tim Danoff. He outlines the architecture of a faceless YouTube portfolio that initially generated $56,000 from 689 million views.
Which is a staggering volume. This is too good to be true. One can start to wonder if such a number ever will pay out a number like that in the day-to-day job.
Right, and then he took that exact framework and repeated the process. He sailed a channel from 0 to 1 billion views, generating $88,000 in revenue. I've actually watched close peers attempt these exact YouTube arbitrage models over the last few years. The landscape shifted from human-led creative teams to completely system-led operations almost overnight. It was honestly brutal to watch. Traditional creators realized they were competing against, automated factories.
The transition is stark. It leaves very little room for legacy production models. It's entirely driven by margins and this relentless pursuit of operational efficiency.
So the strategic mission for our discussion today is very specific. If you're listening to this, hoping for a tutorial on how to adjust your camera lighting or edit a vlog, this isn't it. We are dissecting a highly optimized automated workflow that replaced a $4,000 per month human writing team with a $20 per month AI subscription. We understand the power structures, the economic incentives, and the operational blueprints behind this shift.
So to understand how a system like this operates, we first have to look at the core observation this operator is actually exploiting. There's a fundamental contradiction at the heart of digital media. Stealing content entirely, just blatant copying it.
Yeah, platforms to play hash matching to recognize it.
Exactly. Audiences inherently reject it, and it just doesn't scale as a sustainable business model. But on the other end of the spectrum, creating purely original content is entirely too risky. The failure rate of novel ideas is too high to justify the upfront capital and time investment for an operator looking for, predictable returns.
So if you're an operator in this space, and you cannot steal, but you also cannot afford the financial risk of being entirely original, you are forced to operate in this gray area between those two extremes. You have to find a way to guarantee performance without actually bearing the cost of invention.
And the operator refers to this specific mechanism as script bending. The formula is rigid and it's repeatable. You take a historically proven storytelling framework and you pair it with a unique, unserved, niche idea.
Okay, so you isolate the structural variables that caused a piece of media to go viral in one sector. You apply those exact variables to a completely different topic.
Yes, and the source material provides a very clear example of this in action. There was a highly successful viral format popularized by channels like Paint Explainer and Agent Floppy. The video was titled, "Every U.S. President Death Explained in 21 Minutes." It generated over 6 million views and proved the market appetite for that specific packaging of information. So another operator, Looney Throne, recognized that underlying framework. They didn't steal the video or download the footage, they bended the script. They created Every British Monarch Death Explained.
But what is critical to understand here is the precise level of replication taking place. They are not merely mimicking the broad topic of historical deaths.
No, not at all.
They are stripping down the syntax of the hook and rebuilding it. The original video opened with a very specific structural cadence. It was something like, from eating raw cherries to contaminated water at the White House, to getting assassinated in broad daylight. This is how every U.S. president died in their final words.
Exactly. And the bended video used the exact same chronological escalation and linguistic rhythm.
It opened with, "From this, to that, to this." This is how every English and British monarch died over the last 1,000 years. If you just take a history script and swap in a different geography, doesn't the audience realize they're being fed the exact same video structure? How do they inject enough novelty to keep people watching?
The audience rarely recognizes the structural repetition because the subject matter itself feels novel. They're responding to a specific cadence of information delivery. The pacing of the reveals, the rhythm of the dopamine hits, not just the historical facts. We see this format migration constantly across platforms. The source notes another massive trend, which is the POV, or point of view, format. A channel called The Odd Dude Explained gained massive traction with videos like POV, You're the Cartel's Deadliest Hitman. Another channel, POV Professor, immediately migrated this exact script structure to a different niche.
They shifted the thematic dressing from bad guys to good guys.
Exactly. Releasing POV Your Life as every CIA Black Ops ring.
Think about the last time you went down a digital rabbit hole. Oh, you have to stop viewing this as traditional content creation. This is, well, it's a digital franchise model. You are inventing a new restaurant menu. The algorithm already knows the audience craves the Big Mac. It knows they want the exact 3-second visual hook, followed by the 30-second plot twist, followed by the tension building. You are taking a highly optimized floor plan, recognizing that the kitchen layout and the drive-through mechanics are already perfected. And you are simply changing the packaging from a cardboard box to a wrapper.
That's a great way to look at it.
The psychological triggers are delivered on the exact same schedule. You're just dropping that exact franchise into an unserved neighborhood.
That franchise model analogy captures the operational reality perfectly. You are migrating a proven architectural framework, and you can artificially accelerate that franchise model through a tactical maneuver. The source refers to as hype injection.
Hype injection. So how does hype injection actually function within the confines of a bended script? Does it change the mathematical pacing we just talked about?
It doesn't change the internal pacing at all. It changes the external relevance. Hype injection involves attaching a proven bended format to a massive immediate current trend to artificially inflate the click-through rate. The operator gave an example utilizing that exact Your Life as POV format we just discussed. Instead of applying it to historical soldiers or mafia ranks, another channel applied the framework directly to the Epstein Island news cycle while it was dominating global headlines. By grafting a proven high-retention storytelling framework onto an explosive high-search volume current event, the operator instantly expanded the total addressable market for that specific video. It generated 500,000 views in 11 days on a previously dormant channel.
That is wild. You are capturing an existing massive wave of search volume and directing it through a highly optimized, historically proven retention funnel. But knowing this formula is entirely useless without the infrastructure to scale it. I mean, if you were manually sitting at a keyboard writing these bended scripts, your output is capped by your own biology.
And when we implemented automated data scraping in past projects, we found out very quickly where the real friction lies in these systems. The bottleneck was always synthesis, not collection.
Right? Getting the data is the easy part.
Exactly. Gathering the data, downloading the transcripts, pulling the view counts, that's trivial. Turning that raw data into a structured, deployable asset is where human labor breaks down, gets fatigued, and becomes prohibitively expensive.
Which brings us to the actual mechanism of the system, the AI assembly line. The operator fired their human writers, saving up to $4,000 a month, and replaced them with an AI agent. But they didn't simply open a consumer-grade language model type. Write me a YouTube script about art history, and hit enter.
No. The source explicitly warns against that generic approach, because it fundamentally misunderstands how leverage works. A generic prompt yields a generic output.
And that holds zero retention and effectively kills the channel, right?
So the operator uses Claw AI, and the training protocol they use to build the agent's brain is incredibly dense. They do not feed the AI a few casual instructions about tone. They feed it up to 500 competitor transcripts.
How does a language model actually read 500 transcripts and output a functional formula? It's not just looking at the words, right?
No, it is conducting a granular statistical analysis of linguistic patterns. The AI is programmed to look for the exact emotional valence of the words used every 15 seconds. It analyzes the syntax of the cliffhangers placed just before a retention dip. It measures how frequently the subject changes the word count between punchlines and the specific phrasing used to transition between distinct ideas. The output of this massive data analysis is a 15-page Standard Operating Procedure, or SOP.
So the operator essentially forces the AI to write a highly technical textbook on exactly why a specific competitor is successful, down to the syllable count.
Yes, this 15-page document is essentially an algorithmic rulebook. It details the exact pacing required to maintain viewer attention. It dictates the chronological escalation of the narrative. It outlines the specific storytelling buttons that must be pushed at minute 1, minute 3, and minute 5 to prevent the viewer from swiping away. Once that document is generated, the operator orders the AI to follow its own textbook flawlessly for every future task.
Okay, so once that synthetic brain is built, the operation moves into its daily workflow. And this is where the sheer, unadulterated leverage of the system becomes apparent. So walk me through a Tuesday for this operator. They wake up, they don't have a team of writers to check in on or pitch meetings to attend. What is the machine actually doing while they sleep?
The daily cycle operates in 4 distinct automated phases. Phase 1 is the scraping phase. Okay. The operator has an AI agent that automatically monitors indirect competitors every single day. It scrapes their newly uploaded videos and evaluates them against a specific criteria.
Can this successful video bead to fit the operator's specific channel?
The source uses an R history channel as their primary example. The AI evaluates if a viral framework from a true crime channel, or perhaps a physics channel, can be seamlessly mapped onto the topic of our history without breaking the retention structure.
So if the AI determines the mathematical framework is viable, it moves to phase 2, which is triage. The AI agent automatically populates a centralized Google spreadsheet. It logs the original transcript. It isolates and logs the core viral trigger.
The specific psychological mechanism that made the original video work, whether that's fear, curiosity, or status anxiety.
And then it generates 5 entirely new pitch ideas, adapting that psychological trigger to the art history niche.
Which brings us to phase 3, which is the sole remaining human bottleneck in the entire operation. The operator's only job is to open this spreadsheet once a day. They review the generated ideas, and they click a single checkbox next to the ones they approve. That is the entirety of their creative input.
They're no longer a creator. They're acting as an assembly line inspector, pulling a lever as the products roll past.
They're a highly leveraged decision maker managing a synthetic workforce. Once that box is checked, phase 4 initiates the following morning.
Okay, phase 4, execution.
A second AI agent recognizes the approved status in the spreadsheet. It immediately utilizes the 15-page SOP to write the full algorithmically optimized script. It creates a dedicated Google folder for the project. It drafts the script into a Google document. It then automatically generates a task card in Asana, their project management software, assigning the script to the human animation team.
You know, there is a detail in this execution phase that is deeply telling and honestly a bit of a dystopian comedy. The AI is programmed to automatically write a personalized compliment to the animators. When it assigns the as card, you might say, "Hey team, the lighting on that last project was incredible. Looking forward to what you do with this one."
Recognizing that while the writing process can be automated, the human animators still require emotional validation to maintain productivity.
And they have essentially automated the emotional management of the remaining human workforce, which leads perfectly into a deeper layer of this system. We look at this and assume the main incentive is financial.
Saving $3,000 to $4,000 a month on payroll.
Exactly. But the primary, often overlooked incentive here is the complete removal of emotional friction and human ego from the creative supply chain.
Anyone who has managed a creative team understands this. Friction. Human writers have preferences. They have bad days. They get tired. Most importantly, They fall in love with concepts that the algorithm simply does not care about. A human writer will argue for a script because they believe it is objectively good or clever or artistically fulfilling.
But in this high-volume arbitrage model, good is an entirely irrelevant metric.
It is a meaningless concept to the machine. The operator does not care about quality in the traditional artistic sense. They only care if the structural variables of the script perfectly match the algorithm's historical preferences. By replacing the human team with an AI constrained by a 15-page data-driven SOP, the operator ensures absolute compliance to the mathematical formula. The AI never argues about creative vision.
It never gets attached to a joke.
No, it simply executes the variables it was instructed to execute.
We haven't deployed this exact 500 transcript model at scale in our own operations. Yeah. But looking at the structural architecture of this blueprint, it suggests a massive, glaring single point of failure. The entire system, the scraping, the triage, the 15-page SOP is entirely predicated on past performance. You are building a rigid, operating a procedure based entirely on what worked yesterday.
The vulnerability of relying on historical data.
Exactly. You optimize perfectly for a specific set of platform metrics, say high retention pacing with rapid visual changes. Aggressive sound design and specific hook structures, but algorithms are not static entities. They are dynamic systems designed to serve platform goals. The platform can update its distribution logic overnight. If YouTube decides that fast-paced, high-retention content is burning out their user base, and they shift their prioritization to reward longer, slower, high-watch time sessions, your entire portfolio goes to zero. Immediately, your highly optimized AI agent will continue flawlessly executing a playbook for a game that is no longer being played. Doesn't that make this entire business model a house of cards?
It is a valid strategic risk, and it's one that operators in the space rarely acknowledge because they mistake algorithmic optimization for a durable competitive moat. It is temporary regulatory capture of a specific distribution channel. However, the counter-argument from operators running these systems is that the AI's adaptability neutralizes that risk the moment the algorithm shifts. The metrics drop. The operator doesn't have to spend 6 months retraining a human team to understand the new meta. They simply feed the AI 500 new transcripts of whatever is currently working, and a new 15-page SOP is generated in an afternoon. The specific output might be fragile, but the system generating it is highly resilient.
That adaptability introduces a severe second-order effect that we have to consider. If a $20 per month AI model capable of instantly mimicking historical success, becomes the baseline standard for digital media production, we are entering an era of absolute platform homogenization.
We are already seeing the leading edges of it across major platforms. When the barrier to entry for high-retention formatting drops to zero, the volume of output skyrockets.
We are going to see AI agents continuously scraping videos that were themselves generated by other AI agents. You are feeding synthetic optimized data back into a synthetic optimizing system. It creates a closed-loop echo chamber of perpetually recycled formats and structures.
For investors, advertisers, and operators allocating capital and digital media, this permanently alters the signal-to-noise ratio, discovering genuine, durable intellectual property. Brands with actual audience affinity rather than just algorithmic compliance becomes vastly more difficult when the feed is flooded with algorithmically perfect, fundamentally hollow, faceless content.
So what does this all mean for you? How do we synthesize this operational breakdown? You should not view this source material as a simple guide to making successful YouTube videos. You must view it as a blueprint for commoditizing specialized knowledge. This is a leverage extraction machine. It treats human attention not as an audience to be cultivated or a community to be built, but as the purely mathematical output to be harvested at the lowest possible cost.
You really have to consider the staggering metrics the operator shared at the very beginning of the breakdown. $88,000 in revenue generated from 1 billion views.
Yeah, for anyone familiar with traditional media monetization, that number sounds broken. 1 billion views is a Super Bowl level audience, yet the payout is $88,000. Why is the RPM, the revenue per mil, staggeringly low?
Because it is a high-volume, low-margin arbitrage game. To achieve 1 billion views using these automated bended scripts, the operator is likely relying heavily on short-form video feeds like YouTube Shorts, where ad inventory is drastically cheaper and the payout is fractional tens per thousand views. Content designed to cross language and cultural barriers often over-indexes in lower-tier geographic demographics, where ad rates are significantly depressed.
It is not a premium brand play. It is a relentless operational focus on reducing the cost of production to near zero, so that even fractional pennies per view translate into a highly profitable enterprise. We have tracked the evolution of the digital media landscape through this breakdown. From a struggling independent creator trying to guess what the audience wants, to a manager wrangling human writing teams, to the current state of the art, an architect of a self-sustaining, AI-driven workflow.
And the operator simply oversees the machinery. They check a box on a spreadsheet, and the system extracts the leverage.
This raises an important question for anyone building in this space. When the cost of generating highly structured, algorithmically perfect content drops to near zero, does the value of the format drop to zero with it? Or digital platforms always operate as a marketplace that simply rewards the most efficient system, regardless of who or what is pulling the levers?